was revealed recently that the Southern Baptist Convention has been covering up allegations of sexual abuse for decades. And Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins joins me to talk about this and many other issues. Finally, this story is being told. I look at this story, they're doing a little bit better than the Catholics have done. Catholics have covered this up since the 1940s and 50s, but now they did an independent search, they did an independent study, and the independent study was not good for them, but they're willing to talk about it. What's your take?
At least they're admitting, okay, we've got some problems, and yes, the way we're structured basically is what led to a lot of these problems, and that's really something that I think most people don't quite understand here. The Southern Baptist Convention isn't necessarily like the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has dominion over all Catholic churches. They're all interconnected. Mm-hmm. With Southern Baptist, each church is basically allowed to do their own thing. We're not going to oversee you or dictate you. We don't even get involved in your problems for the most part. So that's what actually led to a lot of these problems, because they're happening at these independent congregations. So starting in about 2007, I think it was, they started getting these reports in to the main body of the Southern Baptist Convention. And that's when things start to go a little south for the whole thing. They knew that these complaints were coming in. They weren't exactly taking the action. They said, okay, well, we're going to let you deal with this. This is your business. We're just here to, sign the paperwork.
It's the same conduct. Okay, the same conduct we see with the Catholic Church, we see with the Mormon Church, we see with all of these cults that are arising everywhere. Okay, so suppress the reports, do everything that you can to suppress the reports, cover it up, make sure it doesn't ever see the light of day, or whether it's sexual abuse, no matter how horrendous the sexual abuse is, and then resist reform. Okay, as long as we can, resist reform. We don't want to talk about it because it's going to hurt us. And then the other thing is vilify and attack the people who are making the accusations and hope they go away. Is that kind of what's happened here?
Oh, absolutely. And that is also another big part of this too. It's not just we're going to ignore it, we're going to pretend it's not happening, we don't want the bad publicity. It is, let's discredit the men and women that are coming forward with these allegations of abuse. These people that have been through these horrifically traumatizing experiences, let's make their life hell. Yeah. Let's make it so much worse for them rather than admitting and solving a problem. Listen, there's so many organizations out there that have had instances like this, whether it's the Boy Scouts, the Catholic Church, as we mentioned, we've talked about tons of them on this show. The difference is, what do you do with this? Mm-hmm. If there is a bad actor in your organization, purge the bad actor.
Right.
Make sure you let people know that, yeah, we had a problem, we've fixed it, we're making sure there's no other problems. It always comes back to the cover-up, and it always ends up getting exposed, which makes the problem 10 times worse for the organization.
Yeah, they protect and support the abuser. They vilify the victim. Matter of fact, in this, there's a real split here. I know you've seen this. There's two very distinctive divisions in this story. One is that division that says, well, we're just going to attack everybody. We're just going to say, matter of fact, a woman that came forward to help get this out there, they said it was a satanic scheme to distract from our evangelism. So you have that side, and then you've got other folks that are saying, no, this is a good thing because we can come up with a system like the Catholics still refuse to do. Since 1940, they still won't do it. There's still clergy, sexually abusing across the board. There's still priests that move up the ladder of importance in the Catholic Church, and they don't do anything about it. But the Southern Baptists are saying, well, at least part of them are saying this is a great opportunity because we can fix this right now if we'll get hands-on. What you think, to me, do you see some differences here?
I absolutely see differences. I mean, the Catholic Church would rather, just kind of bury their heads in the sands, pretend that, oh, no, this isn't a problem. That person was moved. Well, you didn't mention that they were just moved 2 towns over and given a whole new congregation. Everything was covered up. At least with this one, there are plenty of people on the inside who say, we have to do something about this. These individuals have to go. This story has to be publicized. And going back to that as well, I know there's been a lot of news happening in the last 2 weeks, but this story has already died.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's truly remarkable. I mean, you've got, countless victims here that are seeking justice, that are trying to speak out, and the media has already moved on.
Yeah, so you've got two things that can come out of this, that the Catholics were told to do a long time ago, that the Boy Scouts were told to do a long time ago, that the Mormon Church was told to do a long time ago, didn't do it. That is to have a centralized information service, a center where we keep up with this music teacher who has been reported 3 times for improper conduct with children. Put that into a centralized system where we can take a look and we can find out where these people are and what are they doing. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they're talking about doing away with the non-disclosure agreements, to where if we come after you and you have to pay money, you can't hide that. This non-disclosure thing is not going to be permitted anymore because it's so destructive.
Right, and that again, huge problem with all of these organizations is that if allegations have been leveled against one person and it's not publicized, there is no way for them to know when they try to move to a different area that this has happened with this individual or has been alleged to happen. The database would solve that problem like that.
Yeah. The women who were abused by Larry Nassar during their gymnast careers are suing the FBI for failing to take action that they were warned about. They were told up front, look, this is happening. They were told in 2015. They had reams of information in 2015, understand. Most of the bad, really bad stuff happened between 2017 and 2019. But in 2015, they've got witness statements, they've got victim statements, they've got doctor statements. Yeah, this is all true. The FBI did not do their job, and they were sued. The lawsuit that took place for the school shooting, they were hit for $125 million. That should happen here, shouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, the FBI was told, and he was allowed to stay on the job while the FBI was just kind of toying around with, well, do we launch an investigation? Do we not? Do we even approach him? Do we talk to him? And all the while this was happening, the FBI's wringing their hands. This man was still, as far as we know, abusing more and more women. They allowed more victims to happen.
Give me your landing on it. What was it about? How in the world does somebody, this is their only job. I mean, that's the job the FBI is supposed to take care of. And I realize there's laziness, there's just half-ass kind of thinking with every governmental agency, but we hope the FBI that we don't constantly see them screw up after screw up like we saw with 9/11, like we saw with the Marjorie Stoneman High where the shooting took place. They were warned ahead of time it was going to happen. They did nothing. At some point, what is that about?
I think at this particular instance, you still have this mentality that permeates this, that, oh, these girls are making it up. These are young women. Oh, look, you've accomplished so much. What are you really complaining about? I still think you have a lot of that mentality, not just with the FBI, but throughout all the country. We've seen it a lot with people coming forward with allegations of abuse. The first reaction of half the country is, she's making it up. So a lot of that, Larry Nassar was in this big position of power with USA Gymnastics. Nobody wanted to ruffle any feathers because that's where all the Olympians were coming from.
So how many young girls were molested because of it? 90 claimants conservatively that have come forward, more than 100 they think the claim. Now here's where it really gets ugly. It's not that they were lazy. They actually phonied up reports and didn't tell the truth to the Inspector General's office when the Inspector General started looking at it. They were phoning stuff up to make it look like they had done their job. They phonied up stuff to make it look like, there's nothing to see here. That's the friggin' FBI. And we ought to expect more. And I was so glad when they hit him for $127 million with the high school shooting there at Marjorie Stoneman High, because they had been warned years in advance that there was a problem here.
Well, and I hope that this lawsuit is successful. Right now they're suing for about $1 billion. And of course you do have those advising FBI, you need to make a settlement. You know you messed up. The evidence against you right now is absolutely overwhelming. You're not going to win if this goes to a jury trial. And you owe it to these women to resolve this quickly.
And they know there's an uglier story that needs to be told, and we'll tell it right here, and hopefully the media. Maybe corporate media will actually tell that story, but I know we'll be telling it right here.